Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Remember, you can join us in the Freedom Zone. Every single video, every single day, 0 Google ads. It's worth the price of admission. It costs almost nothing to join. And extra content, which we will be jumping into today. Right now, $4 trillion market cap plus for cryptocurrency. It's nice to see after all below late last week, middle to late last week, we dropped under 4 trillion and now we're back above, but the market is still off 2.9. It's got more to give. Bitcoin 118,000 wants to be 119,000. Ethereum 3,800 wants to be 4,000. XRP's $3.25, and we got good news on the charts. We'll talk about it before we get out of here. You know, we're up 2% on the 24. We're still off 8.6 on the 7-day. The range of price between 317 and 332. So XRP's out here jogging around. So we'll keep an eye on it. That 332 is important. We'll talk about that in just a moment here. There was an article that came out last week talking about XRP holders could soon earn 20% yields on their tokens. Now, there was a little bit of a misstating facts on these arguments here. All I'm going to say is that for the record here, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and it turns out to be. Shout out to Crippenwriter here who breaks it down, and it's not to throw shade on More Markets, who is actually offering this, making this offer. It's CoinDesk that got it wrong in the article, it appears. But nonetheless, it says 20% returns according to CoinDesk, but that isn't accurate. If you go into the actual site and check out the offering, it's actually 3.5%. Now, with all of this stuff, we know these products are still early. So for me, you know, I look at this stuff and think to myself, you know, I want a trusted platform. You know, I want an iTrustCapital or someone else, you know, that I use and trust to bring these products to market. That's what I want. And you can get it if you just get your accounts open here. For one, you're going to want to open your account for IRA if you haven't done it, or position yourself even deeper, because the president is unlocking $9 trillion worth of 401ks and allowing you for the first time ever to put your 401k into and get exposure. So you could do it before, but now you're really going to see the money move into this space. Why not take advantage of that macro yourself and get the advantage inside your self-directed IRA? You get the empowerment like no other. Then there's the PCA account. Okay, you've already got your IRA, but now I want a regular account with the same institutional grade custody and less risk of attack than if it was on exchanges. Well, if you're looking for that, and that's a smart thing to look for, then you open this account, the PCA, you go to iTrustCapital.com/XRPArmy, and you enter a closed loop system account, which is to protect you and remove as much of the attack vector away from the bad guys and put the power into your hands. That's what they do with the PCA. You go in with your crypto and cash, but you can only come out to your checking account as cash. And that is to protect you as much as possible from an attack on your end of the transaction. That's what they do every day at iTrust. They're constantly thinking about how they can protect you and give you the best service that you're looking for. And I tell you something, you know, when you just think about that, being in this space, how hard we've all worked to build our portfolios, that matters to me. Make sure you click the link underneath and get started today, and use that promo code XRP6 to get started. Tell them I sent you. Trump at this moment, take a listen to how much money has come into this country in just a few short months.
We're seeing trillions and trillions of dollars in new investments. So at this moment, we have almost $17 trillion coming into this country. There's never been a period of time like that. And that's in a period of a few months.
It's remarkable. I got to be honest. That is remarkable. 17 trillion coming into this country. And it aligns a lot with what this woman said, too.
Trillions of dollars in assets under management, and registered reps all over the country, financial advisors, can now put people in Bitcoin. We knew it was going to make it go up. We knew the Trump administration was basically friendly to crypto. This was such an inevitable move. That's why it's gone higher now. That's probably why it's going to continue to go higher, because Bank of America, for example, the biggest bank, has not yet made that decision, and they are bound to.
And they are bound to. There's no question about it. It's coming. And then we see this. The White House will release its first crypto policy report this Wednesday, July 30th, just 2 days from now, ladies and gentlemen. And I cannot wait to see that report. Meanwhile, Ondo Finance, if you missed it last week, announced that traditional finance is embracing tokenization, and this time it's Goldman Sachs and BNY Mellon tokenizing money market funds to Vietnam, rolling out a national blockchain. The transformation is accelerating globally. Now, this money market fund that they've begun to tokenize together is a $7+ trillion market, just so you know. Yeah. And it looks like Ripple is going to help white label for the large banks. Well, well, well. Isn't this what the conversation has been right here on this channel? Understanding that the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act closes the door on the Federal Reserve participating in the new digital on-chain economy. Well, who's left to participate then? I say the coveted Ripple, that is now waiting for a national chartered banking license and a Fed master account. That's what I say. That's my speculation, and I'm sticking to it. Take a listen to this as Ripple's sitting in the room and part of the conversation here. Take a listen.
You know, there's been a ton of news about a bit more regulatory clarity emerging in the U.S. market. Riffing on one of the audience questions here about big banks in the U.S. Getting into the custody game, do you see them really coming online in terms of conversations? And how is Ripple approaching some of those big banks in the U.S. specifically for custody and other products?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I mean, here in the US, as we all know, the market was pretty much shut until earlier this year, post-election. And banks are very interested because they do know that this is the future of finance, and they do recognize that, you know, there's a real world value in this technology. So a lot of these very ultra large banks have been thinking and waiting on the sidelines, you know, to figure out how to offer digital asset custody solution to their customers. And this is the year that they're finally making the move. And many of them are really going out there, you know, doing research, talking to different vendors and trying to learn and to, you know, decide whether they want to build in-house or work with outside vendors to provide that technology. We've seen, you know, a clear shift right now for large banks to actually partner with industry experts to provide that technology rather than building in-house. This is definitely, you know, the pace is accelerating. I believe many of them will come out with their, you know, custody solution soon, maybe by end of this year or early next year. And it's a very exciting time, right? Just given that US has been behind, right? Just given other markets provided regulatory clarity earlier on, and they were ahead of this market. But, you know, the tides are shifting very quickly. And I think a lot of these financial institutions based in the US are moving very quickly.
This is the VP of Marketing North America for Ripple, ladies and gentlemen. That's who this is. I just thought you should know. Like I said, Ripple just applied for a national banking license and a Federal Reserve master account. Now, let me take you back here. Do you remember this guy? This is David Andelfato, helped write the FedCoin paper, if you remember, where XRP would be used to underpin a digital dollar. Yeah. I want you to listen to this clip. It's been from years ago. You've probably heard it, but I want you to listen to it with a new take on this clip.
People say, how can you trust, you know, the Fed to do the bookkeeping? I mean, like I said, my response is, you don't expect the Fed to kind of steal your money. I mean, if the Fed can print all the money at once, it's not going to like mess around with your bookkeeping. So, you know, we have this big spreadsheet, you know, the blockchain if you want, but it's just managed by the Fed, and it's very cheap, much cheaper than Bitcoin. if you're willing to delegate the responsibility to a third party. But then the downsides to all of that, of course, is you'd actually, suppose you didn't want the Fed to be responsible for processing the payments. I mean, suppose, the Fed will likely impose some KYC restrictions on some purchases. They might not process some purchases that you might want to undertake. And so it was at that point that I said, well, we could, if we wanted to, extend the concept one step further. I'm not saying that this is ever going to happen, but just conceptually, you could imagine not FedWire for all, but kind of like a Fed coin, where what the Fed would do is actually just issue these, Bitcoin-like objects, but and they would enforce a par exchange rate with the U.S. dollar. That would eliminate the exchange rate volatility. But they could delegate the clearing of these payments to some third party, some sort of Ripple-like protocol or possibly.
Oh, Ripple-like protocol. This is David Andelfato, formerly of the St. Louis Federal Reserve from all those years ago. Now today, Ripple is waiting for approval for a national banking license and a Federal Reserve master account. This is why we spend so much time looking at old clips. This is why we spent so much time all these years looking at PDF reports. This is why we do all of those things, to see if it's truly coming together today the way it was yesterday. Confirmed, global banking giant Santander is running a live, fully functional payment system powered by Ripple's blockchain. Shout out to Smoke Dog. He brings the fire right here. There it is, has implemented a fully functioning OnePay FX payment system from Ripple running on blockchain. We know Standard Charter's already tested, piloted XRP. We heard it from Bill Winters, the CEO of Standard Charter. Here's confidential document reveals the systemically important banks, including Santander, Bank of America, Standard Charter, as we just mentioned, are serving as advisors to the Ripple network. I covered yesterday that there's over 1,000 institutions and banks now on RippleNet. That was according to Grok, Super Grok. This is where we're going, ladies and gentlemen. And then look at this. Gary Gensler has been brought on to head up digital assets for BlackRock. It makes me sick too. It really does. There's no question about it. But what I want to take you through is this nice little post here. Shout out to Stellar Rippler. The Ripple CIA BlackRock file, what have I found, will blow your mind. He says a system being built that sends us money in seconds, anchors sovereign identity, secures encrypted medical data, holds keys to the reset. This one's deep. Look at it. We start right here. Ripple applies for a bank license and simultaneously files for a Federal Reserve master account. At the same time, Ripple's partner Ondo Finance is tokenizing U.S. Treasuries. I have said personally that that is the greatest unofficial endorsement of the XRP ledger to be allowed to tokenize the U.S. debt on that XRP ledger. Who's backing Ondo? BlackRock. Ondo's founder, Nathan Allman, ex-Goldman Sachs. Who else came from Goldman? Larry Fink's inner circle. Gary Gensler, now at BlackRock. You starting to see the loop? I know I am. BlackRock already has an ETF called Genomics Healthcare Index ETF, and then he starts to go really deep on it. For me, I want to stay right here. Because that's where it all is. That's where it all is. We are watching a vision complete, be realized in real time. Ripple has had to give the central monopolist, as Gary Gensler said at his time as a professor at MIT, some of its XRP to get through the gates, a la the fine. And maybe earmarked escrow. I want you to listen to this clip.
So Chris, how do you plan on distributing Ripple? I know part of it is set aside for the founders, and then the rest is given out to basically encourage people to use Ripple, or?
Ripple Labs can give it to business development partners, to consumers broadly, to people globally. So two things that we've been doing which we like is we've been incenting market makers with XRP forgivable loans. It's essentially the vehicle that we're currently using. But we feel that incents, say, big currency traders, high frequency traders to actually be active market makers on Ripple. Say big currency traders, high frequency traders, that provides liquid markets. That's good for everybody. It's them an incentive in the long-term success of the network. That provides liquid markets. That's good for everybody. Gives them an incentive in the long-term success of the network. In some ways, just exactly what Visa did, is they sort of gave out ownership of Visa to key banks to participate in the system.
Central monopolist with another central monopolist. A lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks that are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you put a native token in there, and you give them the native token. So there may be other incentive ways. Monopolist.
In some ways, just exactly what Visa did, is they sort of gave out ownership of Visa to key banks to participate in the system. We think that's good. And the other cool thing that we've been doing that we like.
And there you have it. Like I said, you're watching a vision become complete in real time. That's what you're watching. Don't forget when he talked about all those high frequency traders. Ripple bought Hidden Road that does $3 trillion a year and then recently got approved to help settle the $2 quadrillion at the DTCC, for which the DTCC can tokenize 100 trillion of it unilaterally without anyone's permission. And Hidden Road could help settle it. And the DTCC, the money shot patent from Baron of Beach Street, Stellar, XRP Ledger, right in the patent for the DTCC for settlement and clearing. That's what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we're talking about. All this patent information right here. And this is all new. March 6, 2025. This isn't like from 2018, 2015. Remember, 2015, they hired Donald Donahue, the CEO, former CEO of the DTCC, as an advisor to Ripple. So all of this that I see today is just coming to fruition from the grand plan they had years ago. Here's what we know. Boots on the ground when it comes to charts and price. Eggrag Crypto tells us XRP's on the move. Closing above $3.30 is the bullish strong signal we're looking for. And should we get it, Javon Mark says here, watch out. Current target $4.80, and then from there, we should have room to climb another to get to $7 plus. That's what he's seeing on the charts himself. And we know Eggrag Crypto's told us between $9, $24, $30 we could see. It's all on the table, not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the Freedom Zone. Oh my, I hope you will go join us today. We're gonna cover what's going on with that Hump Island, that client list. Seems like we're not quite done with all of this just yet. We have that and so much more. Again, not financial advice from me or anyone else. Going into the Freedom Zone right now. Come on in.